What's the big idea?
Episode 51.
51. Yes. 51.
One?
51. 51. It's really, I've noticed that to stay young, I have to abbreviate things. You can't say I was laughing out loud. You have to say lol. I was lolling.
WTF, mate. You remember that YouTube video when it first came out? The
WTF?
Yeah, that's
mate?
like a mate. Well, yeah, it's like this Aussie guy. It's like a little cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many like those early YouTube videos are just so ridiculous.
Hey, you were there. You were like in your teen
the
years.
Jagerbomb guy. Yeah, the Jagerbomb guy.
Yeah.
WTF, mate. All I remember is a cartoon, like a drawing of a globe, and then like this Australian voice saying
really?
WTF.
Is that where WTF came from?
I don't think so, but
no.
maybe.
I don't know. What year are we talking?
Like 2007, 8.
Could be.
Super old.
I don't remember people saying WTF before, like in my childhood.
True. Your daughters were telling me about slime videos.
Slime videos were a thing. Yes.
I didn't
know this.
Just learned this today.
Yeah, there's probably a certain segment of girl who's listening to this, or parents listening to this who have daughters who are like 17 to 19 or 20, 25 even maybe, who are, when we mention slime videos, they probably just go, oh my God.
When they just said, and my face was like this. I was like, slime video? I'm like, what?
Like satisfying.
I'm like, is this an app? A slime app?
Like make a slime, and it was very satisfying for people to make the sound and the just pushing. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I think these are the same people, by the way, who enjoy popping other people's pimples. Same generation.
Why would people let other people pop their own pimples?
Well, I mean,
or do they just see them on the street and then just like, bah.
Yeah, well, not on the street. I think it has to be an intimate relation, and it's someone. Think so. And then you have to trust the person, and then that person is obsessed. I think that age group is probably obsessed with popping other people's pimples for the same reason that they were into slime videos. It's that satisfying weirdness.
People in a relation. Do they ask them, or do they just like?
I hope they ask them, because if you don't, that's
probably
it's not cool. You gotta have consent.
Probably just attack.
I don't know.
While they're sleeping.
That's not, that is not cool. We do not recommend that here at Volleyballology. But speaking of topics, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of bursting your bubble. Some people get their bubble burst by getting cut, right?
Yep.
Which sucks. And we're in the time of year in a lot of places. Anytime, you could be listening to this at any time, but if getting cut from a team is never easy. We were talking about it before. We haven't had too much experience with this personally because we were phenomenal players. But we also played in a time and a gender where I think there's a lot fewer people trying out for spots.
Our team had spots open. We took 8 or 9.
That's how it worked. Yeah,
right.
A lot of teams that we were begging for players on the guy side of things.
Yeah.
And today there's more. I don't know if there's more guys playing, but it depends on where you are. But there probably are overall more guys playing in the U.S., Canada, Europe. But on the female side, it's like you can be an amazing player and not get put on a team for a lot of different reasons. Like we've talked about on the show, politics. And so we just want to spend a little time talking about getting cut, because I think this time of year, again, a lot of players are dealing with that. A lot of families are dealing with that.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about some things you can do, talk about how it feels, some different factors that can go into getting cut, and and just discuss it. Maybe a little conversation that might help some players, parents get through it. Maybe even some coaches who have to make some hard decisions, because that's always the coach's side of it is very tricky sometimes. Sometimes there's a player you wish you could take, but they're at a position where there's like you can't just take them over. Some parents don't understand. It's like if a weaker middle makes the team over a really strong outside hitter, but that's because the team has enough outside hitters, and they think, how come my kid's better than that person? But they don't understand the positional thing. So or a setter who's mediocre, but team needs a setter,
right?
So there's that stuff.
For the positional stuff, I guess we can just get into, but positional stuff shouldn't kick in until
15, 16, when they allow them to designate. It depending on where you are. Like some places, they might not have that restriction, but Yeah, so I don't. Did you ever have any? Do you have any friends who got cut, or like, did you ever have to? You haven't been in a position to cut players, eh?
No, but our team's taking like 12, or they're not taking 14.
A lot of teams are taking 16 now.
What?
Sometimes 18. I mean, it depends on how high you go. Like a lot of varsity post-secondary schools.
Well, I know
They're taking 18 or even sometimes like 24. Like,
Yeah,
it's a lot of people.
they're redshirting like 4.
Yeah,
four
and it's not.
players.
I think it's a good idea in the post-secondary because you know
For
you
sure.
get those first years in and get them ready and see what they've got,
Yeah.
rather than like taking 12. And like when we played, it was like
Well,
12 was
there
standard.
there it makes sense, and you're also practicing like twice a day, right? And so you're developing like crazy if you're a
Mhm.
redshirt, and you don't need to. There's 3 times more practice time than there's more than that, 4 or 5 times more practice time than game time.
Uh-huh.
So if you can get in on one of those programs, that's still a huge win.
Yeah, and I'd hate to think there's kids that aren't happy being red shirts in post-secondary,
Right.
but in some ways it's funny. The same should happen with club. Like if you are someone who makes a good club team and you're not playing, but you're getting all that practice time, I sure hope that parents and players are appreciating that too. Unless there's a whole thing where like it's obvious that your kid's getting, the problem is that there's political decisions or like just bad decision making of the coach. We're assuming people are wise coaches here, but that's the problem. Most of them aren't. But yeah, there's value. So I mean, talking about like getting cut, it's brutal, especially like if your kid is like, I mean, we saw a few posts on social media this week where like I felt like, and I think I may have responded with, that line that Hugh McCutcheon gave us on the show, like volleyball isn't something that defines me. It's something that I do. Because I did see some parents that were like really defining, like it almost sounded like it was for the parent, their frustration level with their kid getting cut, and they're devastated, and like, what is she going to do? Or like, what am I going to, like, it's like a kick in the gut and I don't know what to tell my kid. I think one thing you can do for your kid if they're devastated is give them some perspective on like, this is just a sport that you play. It's not your whole identity.
Yeah.
I know that's small comfort, but it is true. And then finding get your next chapter as a parent, I think, is to help find your kid a place to play. It could be at the YMCA, right? Community leagues.
If they really love the sport,
If they love the sport, just get them in it.
There's absolutely more ways to play. You may have to wait, I don't know, for a season or like, a part of the season, because then you can get into beach, and then beach is such a great solution for this.
Yep.
I've been cut before for sure, from like hockey, soccer teams,
Right.
basketball teams, I think. But the big ones, the competitive ones, were like hockey and soccer, and then whatever. I just like didn't make the super rep teams. I still had house league to fall back on though. That was the thing, right? Whereas volleyball in our area, it's kind of like there is no real house league. There's just like one kind of main league, except with the thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. We're just providing open leagues in a way for kids to go and play without like all this crazy structure of coaches. And, we're in a few leagues, we're having some issues where parents are too close to the games. You know what I mean? And I was thinking like, we're going to have to ask them to go sit in like a spectator's area, because like I've seen it on a few nights, it's actually affected the kids' ability to just play the game. And then it's like, what are we doing here, right? Like, why are you here, and why did you sign your kid up? You signed them up so they can play, right? And now it's getting into this weird, but sorry. The main point is that the solution is just offering more open like leagues and stuff like that. So
or looking for, like, if you're a parent, like, help find your kids some community play opportunities. Also too, like, don't forget, like, if you get cut, there is some value, by the way. This is sort of a strategy that I was telling my daughter about, because she's going to go try out for a very competitive university program. They're having open tryouts because their coach is a really high-level playing coach who knows that he might, your scouting might have missed something, and then what if you get some weapon coming into your gym? Why turn that away, right? And I said to her, like, if you don't make it because it's ultra competitive, I said, you'll like this too. I said to her, like, so how many kids do you think will be trying out probably at these open tryouts? Could be 100 kids. This is one of the top schools in our province, in our area, right? It could be 100 kids. Who knows?
It could be, yeah.
Right? Could be 50, could be whatever. I said, so you're competing against them. Now, let's suppose you get cut, and a lot of people get cut. How many people do you think you're competing against if you really love it? Like my kid, like, she needs volleyball in her life, whether it's, intramurals, she's prepared to do it, training, community leagues, but she really wants to be on the team, and she works hard and she loves it. So, So if she wants to be a serving specialist, she says, right, or defensive specialist even. So I'm like, how many kids are you competing against if you go up to the coach after getting cut and saying, listen, I need to be in this gym. I'll just come out. I'll just come out and spin serve at your team. I'll be a red shirt if you need me for practice.
Yeah.
You want to work on receiving spin serves, or you want to work on, you want me to come out and defend, in a scrimmage, I can do all that. Then how many kids are you competing against?
Yeah.
And if you keep going back to the coach. So, Rudy, the movie Rudy, if you haven't seen it, like that sort of story, that idea that you don't take no for an answer. I mean, I said to her, so how many kids are you competing with there? And she's like, probably 0. I said, I think so. So like because a lot of people are too shy to do that. But if it matters to you that much, then, I mean, even in club, like, there's something like you want to accept it, the decision of the coach for sure. But there is something that most coaches might value about a polite kid who comes up and says, listen, I need to be involved. I don't even want to play, but I want to be in every practice, and I want to. And again, I think you have to have some value to give. You have to be useful here. So if you're strong at something, whether it's setting, hitting,
I can see her being a serving specialist.
Yeah,
right. Kids camp we were running this week.
Because in university, like, I don't see many kids serving like her. So I hope she does it and stands out. And she's pretty calm about it too. She can get it, and like even last night we watched her at some co-ed scrimmage, and she was hammering spin serves and digging up hits like crazy. And so I'm like, I said, I don't think a coach would say no to you if they, even just for the practice reps.
The ideal coach that we're thinking of, not closed-minded.
Yes, the coach that really knows the sport and understands the value of something like that. Just even if that's all you did all season, that's enough for her. She just wants to be part of that vibe. So that's, I think the first tip is like, being like passionate, polite, and just saying you're willing to accept a lower role. Like, not many kids and parents are willing to say that today, right? Where like, I just want to be a part of this, and I'm willing to not start, not play. The value of the reps, like you were talking about in practice,
right?
That would go along. I mean, the coach would have a hard time. Like, even if you just, like, as a person, if I saw kids saying that, I'd be like, kind of the character you want in that gym.
Yeah.
So, and you can't really fake that. I mean, there's probably people listening to this who are like, no way. If my kid's not playing, I'm not going to pay for club. And that's okay. But if you are that kid and you did get cut and you're willing to do that and you're young and you still want to learn, that's admirable.
Well, I think that this will be even within that coach's ability to do so, because like I think you can redshirt like at least 4 players. I don't know what the limit is. Yeah. Right. And then I know teams don't even use it that much. Maybe they're using like two at tops. So it sounds like it should be within their capability of doing that, right? And I think you and I, when we were younger, we both got given that. We're given that opportunity to. We were given the ability to play up, right, and then practice, and then we would also go to the tournaments, and obviously we wouldn't play nearly as much as we did, right? So that was the whole thing of being given a lower level and just kind of accepting. We were like just thankful to like be there. Right. Yeah, like that.
I won Rookie of the Year, but I was on a crappy team.
You did win Rookie of the Year?
I did, yeah.
That's awesome.
But I was on a crappy team, I have to admit.
So wait, you won Rookie of the Year for your school, not the league?
No, not the league. Yeah, no, just fine. Yeah. And I think I might have made the award myself. Spelled rookie wrong. No, anyway. Just kidding. No. It's
that
true.
Is a great lesson to go through if they can.
Oh yeah, and I was humbled in first year and felt like I wanted to quit at times because you're just like not as comfortable as you were in high school. And so I think that there's real value in that. But so that would be my first tip is to petition for that.
I guess you need to evaluate like how much you really love the sport. Like in the case of your daughter, like I know her, this absolutely makes sense, right?
Obsessed with the sport,
and really does have like an amazing, consistent jump spin serve. Yeah, that would be useful for the team, I would imagine. But like you want to make sure who we're talking to, like you have to do a reality check. Like, is this actually what you want? Like,
are you useful? That's the tough question,
right? The whole thing like being undeniable. Like if you get turned down, I think I was talking with a parent the other day of how his daughter is last year played up, super very thankful because they happen to have like a good coach who was a former high level player, but then the club was putting some pressure on them to get into like running ID camps as soon as possible. I guess they run them as soon as the season ends. And then as soon
Makes
as
no
that
sense.
happens, they all of a sudden they would sign like half the team that was there the previous season, and then they would immediately like just jump to the new kids. Which I can understand that's how you're team building, but you're building a team like a professional team where you're signing contracts early.
Yes.
And I guess they weren't even allowed to do early signings, but they can give these verbal things or something.
Breaking the rules.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then so he was telling me about it because his daughter was one of the girls who got dropped from it, right? And now they're in the process of trying to figure out where they're going to play again.
Yeah.
And he seemed like a little like stressed out about it, basically, right? Because now he's got to go around, he's got to do all this, and it sounds like a pretty hectic experience. Like you go to these tryouts and there's like 50 to some of these club tryouts, and there's like 80 kids or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
More than that even up here, yeah.
And he's like, he said you have to pay for them.
Yeah, there's a little cost for everything. It adds up, man. These clubs. That's why that's what's so weird when you know what clubs do. You know what clubs do? They sometimes they're holding these tryouts without telling people how many spots are left.
That's the other thing you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, there was one like we went to where we knew, okay, high level coach is there.
Did anyone get taken?
Well, high level coach is there, right? And they invite all these people to come out. So we're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go, and you go. And then they just call out the 12 players and they go, okay, we're going to go practice in this gym. And that coach and those players just go to the other gym. And all these other people are just sitting in this gym trying out. It was like kind of a deceptive, what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, the team's full. Don't worry about it. But they don't say that.
Thanks for coming out. Yeah. You can play for an hour.
And the funny part is like, there were some kids left in that gym that were definitely better than some of those kids that were in that. But they were like, see, I don't know. And this was an Olympian who was coaching, by the way.
Nice.
Nice. So I was a little surprised. I was like, wow, so you've become full-time club director here.
Yeah.
Like you're now playing that game. Like, you see, that's the thing. Like you said too, like that guy was getting, the high-level coach, D1 guy was getting sucked into thinking that way too. And I remember that too. I was, when I was 22 and I was coaching, I was getting sucked into that stupid stuff. I remember Shane was here talking about his experience as a young coach too. You get, because you're still insecure, right? Because at 22, 23, even no matter how you played or where you played, you still, as a coach now, feel insecure.
Yeah.
So, and there's that whole, like, I'm not in control.
You're just competing.
Yeah. And you were a player. Yeah. So you were like, now you're not when Magic tried to coach the Lakers, Magic Johnson, he like couldn't do it. He was like too frustrated, too crazy. That's why Jordan could never coach a team, because he's like looking at these people, holding them to like, and that's what I always try to remind myself. Like, okay, these are 16-year-old kids or 17-year-old kids or 18-year-old kids. They're not, haven't been through post-secondary or anything. So you get roped into it. Sometimes you're like, what the hell was that? Like screaming at kids about I guess it's the boys' side of things as is the only place I really coach. So I always thought like I wouldn't coach. I don't know how I'd coach females. Like really, like I only helped out with my daughter's teams once in a while.
Like,
well, what I mean is in terms of the I think as a male coach, you give yourself permission. Back then, this is a long time ago, to like yell at boys more. And I think parents are I see this with my daughter's boyfriend now, and she's 19. And I just see
yells at him?
Yeah. Well, she does. She tests him, yeah. No, but I just see the difference in how, like, his family, like, they'll be like, oh, we can't go to tomorrow because, like, his parents are making him cut the lawn on the tractor. And I'm just like, we can't relate to that because we have daughters. We're like, yeah, like, I don't think I'm sexist, but I just don't hold them to that standard. Like, I don't hold them to that. Like, my dad would tell me, move those branches over there. I'm like, why? It's like a pile of branches. Move them over there. Move them back the next. Just with a boy, you just subconsciously like, hey, I got to make this guy's life crap.
Yeah.
Like, I just cut the grass. Doesn't matter. I cut it tomorrow. Yeah. So I don't know. There's that weird thing. So I think in coaching, I felt that too. Like, I think coaches are okay with being harder on boys subconsciously. But I still
think you notice that in the moment. You know what I mean? When you're
looking back, I didn't coach. Like, in fairness, I didn't coach females when I was at it. Like, so I didn't know. Maybe I would have been as much of a jerk. Or I'd hate to think I have the sexist. Like, 'cause I think we're very sexist in our like, oh, females need to be treated like soft, and I think female athletes hate that. By the way,
right?
At least the real athletes do.
Yeah, right? Anyone, like any athlete would.
Yes, they should. They should.
Yeah,
yeah, being coddled to, or like, yeah, and that's the other thing, right? In this world of club volleyball is that I think a lot of players we're getting to the point where some sport is getting like that, where like sports organizations are like, you can't face pass till this age, or you can't, it's a fine line. But it's weird because the organizations are worried about the dummy coaches, so they have like the fair play rule, equal play time, because they're worried about the dummy coaches who are going to bench a 12-year-old or something.
And then the whole rule doesn't even change any of the coaching behaviors for the years once that's dropped. The whole idea of it is to implement more fair play.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the policy is taken away, they just go right back to no fair play.
Yeah. They're
like, oh yes, we can screw over half the kids an hour.
Yes. And in fairness, like the fair play rule, like I've heard a lot of good coaches talk about the fair play rule sucks because they can't, like, if a kid skips 90% of practices, and then you have to let that kid play the same amount or quite a bit, very similar playing time to someone who's been showing the dedication. I think those coaches, though, are in the minority. I think the bulk of coaches would just bench kids for winning the medal and all that stuff, right? But it's a tricky rule for both coaches. Like it's good for the bad coach. It's funny because I noticed as an education too, like so much of the policy was geared towards the bottom. So the policies that everybody had to suffer because there were bad teachers that needed to have this policy, and then it affected the really good,
Same in private sector and healthcare.
Yeah.
The policies only ever came out when someone was just taking advantage of something or really screwing something up and dollars were being lost.
Yeah. and then you set this policy based on what some dummy did. Some guy.
Everyone loses a little bit of freedom, and then you just
that's why policies happen, man. Like I, even as an organization myself, I'm just like, we have to set some stupid policy sometimes, and I'm like, oh, this is how organizations.
This is where it comes from.
Yeah, so you set the policy to the bottom, but I guess we're a little off topic, but we always are.
I was going to say something political.
Oh, good.
What was it? About
Joe Biden.
I guess it's not political. I guess it can be political. I'm wondering what, like, because all the kids that are going to be coming up into like varsity athletics that had to deal with COVID, that's coming soon, right? Mm-hmm. That's like next.
Like in terms of the players who what?
Like when they were, I guess when they were playing club, and now they're going to be entering into, like if they're, just different years or whatever. There's a span of like a 4 or 5 year gap, or I guess 3 or 4 year gap, where they were about to play sports, and then COVID happened, so then they didn't get to play club or whatever. And now they're through that, and now maybe they're 17 or 18, and they're going to go to varsity next year.
Yes,
right?
Like post-secondary, like university or college.
Yeah, so it's going to look weird. Because there's a whole bunch of development that was missed. There's a bunch of strange things that unfortunately kids and everyone on the planet went through, of like fear and all this stuff. I popped into my head when we were talking about kids and how far, like, can we push them the same way that we used to? Or
right, gotcha.
And we've gone over this before. Like, we don't agree with the old school traditional
physical punishment thing.
Right. And I definitely don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's a better way to approach it. Just kind of explain the reason for physical training and conditioning. It's a sport, right?
Yeah, you just don't want to associate physical training with punishment. Yeah, that's bottom line. There's other ways to punish people in tryouts that aren't like, I mean, the consequence of goal-based drills, like if you want to race to 10, and taking down the equipment for losing team or something.
When you're losing, or
something like that. Yeah, but anyway, sorry. We're gonna see a little. I mean, I think we're gonna see ripple effects of that forever, right? Like we're gonna see so think about it this way. Think about the kids that were the youngest. So think about the kids that were like in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2. Are they even going to be playing sports? Yeah, like that's when we're gonna see. Like, people don't understand how far-reaching these ripple effects are. I think so. I remember coming out of COVID, I was like, there's going to be a rash of injuries. Like a ton of kids are going to go from 0 to 1 million. Yeah. And then I popped my Achilles tendon, and I met a bunch of people who had Achilles tendon problems after COVID, right? And a lot of players. No, I knew 3 players.
Because your body is a compass for the global body.
Yes, my experience.
Yes.
I kind of am. I notice I go.
You're the barometer.
I go as the world goes.
The zubrometer.
All I know is that when I fart, global temperatures rise.
Yes.
And there were forest fires like right after
That's too political.
That's too political.
Yeah. Did you hear my zoobarometer?
Zoobarometer is good. Zoobarometer.
I love asking if you heard your joke, just
because I was too busy focusing on my joke.
Yeah. I just need that verification, that validation.
Anywho, no, but it was good because it was good, and I was too obsessed with my own joke. It's like when people ask you how you're doing, or how you ask how they're doing, but you're too busy waiting for them to ask you how you're doing. No, but what was I saying?
You know what's funny about that interaction?
What?
Sometimes people ask me like how I'm doing, and I'll reply, and then they'll just automatically say how they're doing. I'm like, oh, I didn't.
Oh, I know.
But then I feel bad for not asking them, and I'm like, oh, geez, am I the rude person then?
It's good to, what I find, just life advice for anybody listening. Not that anybody's listening, but I find it's good to talk. Like, if you ask people about them more, then what happens is you become less anxious as an individual. Like the cure for depression, anxiety, they say, like every therapist will tell you.
Cold bath.
Well, that helps, but also, it also helps volunteering at like a homeless shelter, or volunteering at someone who has like really tough circumstances, or like helping people. But the reason why helping works for that stuff is because it helps you get out of your head, and you also learn instant. I thought these were big problems, but these are not big problems.
Yeah, because if you go help people that are in much worse.
Yeah,
you get perspective.
Gives you perspective, and it gets you out of your own, because a whole lot of it is poor me. And so.
Well, you know what also helps with that is just focusing on your breath.
Yes.
If you were to like sit down, because then you're focusing your mental energy on your breath, and then that takes the energy away from the whole non-stop thought cycle.
But that can also reinforce self-obsession a little bit, because it is like, keep track of my breath, keep track of it. Well, it does put the thinking inward, whereas I can honestly tell you, like from experience, like counseling kids,
for sure,
getting them to help other kids is huge, because and even for me as a counselor, I learned a lot about like, wow, I didn't know how many problems people had until you go into counseling. You're like, holy smokes, like this is serious crap. So then it gives you perspective on things in your life. You're like, I'm not going through anything. I thought I was. So that's very powerful. And then the breath stuff doesn't even become, you know what I mean? Like the breath work is like already dealing with anxiety and like self-obsession. But when you start to like think about other people's problems, you're like, wow, my problems maybe aren't as big as, like, like even this topic we're talking about, right? Like, is getting cut from a volleyball team the end of the world? Like we said, like, my child plays volleyball. It's not who they are. There's bigger problems in the world than that, right? So, and
there's always volleyball to play, I think, in my opinion.
Yes, there's always a place to play.
Yeah.
And even one other thing we didn't mention too, like the first thing, like aside from running straight to community organizations, I would check clubs. Like if it matters to your family and your kid, like go to other, like maybe drive an hour. Like some parents like talk like, they do anything for their kid, but you tell them that the next club team is an hour away. They're like, I'm not going to drive an hour away. Well, then don't complain, because if your kid really wants it, check around. There might be other clubs locally that need players even after tryouts are done, right?
You and I have known kids have driven like almost 2 hours.
I knew a kid
twice a week.
I coached a kid that would get up at like 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning to take a city bus to morning practices.
Yeah.
I had no clue until like years later that he was doing that. He didn't come and brag about it.
Yeah.
He was the first kid at practice in the morning. And I said, oh, good. He's our captain. He's a dedicated player, good player, great player. And then I found out, he would wake up, come from Oshawa.
That's wild.
Come from the city, like, half an hour away. But half an hour, but more an hour. It's an hour by bus. Right?
Yeah, it takes,
Yeah, so kind of cool to see that. So perspective and finding other places to play. I think it's huge that your kid can also, like, go and work on other parts, like, so physical endurance. If they need that energy release, a lot of kids, they need something to do. Get them into a training program or something, How
often did you play pepper with your kids as they were growing up?
A lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
I think there's like, if you think about the amount of hours that you just played pepper with them, like that's
or played leagues with, like, we played a lot together.
Yeah,
in different leagues. Yeah.
We beat them in 2v2 in your backyard a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, those are quality touches. Like pepper is such a great, amazing.
It is
drill. I don't even call it a drill. It's like a game warm up tool.
It's good cardio too. It gets tiring.
It does.
Pepper gets
It can
tiring.
get intense.
Yeah, because there's the movements and the lateral movements, like the little micro movements, the squatting nonstop, chasing down a ball.
And get a little net and like play short court. Like short court is exhausting and it's amazing.
Yep.
We haven't even, I mean, I mentioned it a little bit, but like beach again is coming up as a huge answer.
Yeah.
Like there's a few players I know that they were cut from the big training program in our province. However, they're still on the beach, and they're actually, one of them is like dominating right now.
Right. And they came up in the show.
They did
last episode. Yeah.
Right. So he's someone I don't know his history of like whether he doesn't look like very much of an indoor player. That's the funny thing.
That can happen.
Yeah, now he's going to play at university, so I guess he's now going to get the privilege of experiencing that, and then that'll add to his game, I'm sure, right?
Well, just quick note about this too, like you said, he's going indoor, right?
Yeah.
So like we were last night, like so I've been playing a lot of beach last few weeks, and we went to this open gym or this league that we were running locally, and me and my daughter were peppering to warm up. It was the easiest pepper I've done in my life. It was just like, my leg strength, movement, there's no sand here, no wind, no conditions. So I was just like peppering, like hitting perfecly, digging, chasing, no fatigue, no, like, I'm 48, right? I know I look like I'm 25, but I am actually 48. And people are like, no way, are you 48? I'm like, yes.
Oh,
it's true. I'm 48. I know. Do not adjust your set.
We can get you a t-shirt. Do not adjust your set.
Do not adjust your internet. No, but it was just like, that's the example.
I was thinking set, like is in your volleyball.
Oh, shoot. I didn't even. Oh, shoot. I just shoot. I can't stop.
Yeah.
Spike.
Wow. What a pun on a pun on a.
Anyway, I won't make it a joke. I was going to make a bad joke. Inappropriate joke. But,
don't set me off the net because I'm 48. Send me party balls only.
Actually, that's
there you
not
go.
True. I want
to make a T-shirt. I'm 48, and then it says party balls only on the back.
Party balls.
Maybe that's not.
No. Yeah, that's wrong party. Wrong sport.
Yeah.
No. I actually like sets off the net on the beach now. I think it depends on the set. Actually, I was playing this tournament recently, and the person was like, it was fours, and the person was sitting sideways all day, and I just couldn't. I was just, and they're super tight. I didn't like it because I wasn't even sure she was setting me. I was like, ooh,
yeah,
like I'm so used to someone squaring up.
Yeah,
nice, easy to read. But anyway, so I've really thrown off by that. But anyway,
were you playing left side?
Like I was playing left side, yeah.
It is really hard. So I mostly play like right side the entire side. We're going down a tangent.
No, that's okay.
But like playing on the left side with inconsistent sets as a right-handed attacker is very, very difficult, right? And I know why now. I mean, it makes sense. I was looking at
playing right side.
No, playing left side.
Right-handed.
It's always easier to adjust to an inside set. If you have to adjust to an outside set,
100%.
It kills your approach.
100%.
Unless you can then go goofy-footed.
Yes.
Right?
Karch.
Yeah.
Karch intentionally. Go goofy. It's funny. You know what's funny? When I read that, like, so Karch Karaev.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah. Karch is like one of the best beach players of all time. And he would intentionally go goofy foot. And goofy footed means you start your approach with the wrong foot. Like, so as a right-handed player, you're supposed to take your first real step with your left. Some people do 4-step, 5-step approaches.
3, 4, 5, whatever.
Yeah, but the first real.
You end right left though.
Yes.
That's the big difference, I would think.
Yeah. And so
goofy footed is landing left, right.
Yeah, because the directional step we would used to call it would be like the left, like comfortable step, and then explosive right, left. And so goofy footed would be switching things up, starting with your right foot as right hand. You know what's funny though about that? And after reading that, it was very cool because I remember whenever I would get a tight set that was a little bit outside me, just a little bit outside, I would take an extra step.
Yeah,
and I would tattoo that ball straight down the line.
Would you jump goofy footed?
I'd have to. I'd take an extra step, like at the end. So I would have. So what would happen is I would like take the next, and I would like my now I'm like, oh, there's an extra. So now right, left, right.
Yeah.
And I would kill. That was one of the few times I would really go line a lot, and it's because it was that ball forced me to do it, and I would hit it down.
Yeah.
Because I take that extra step because I knew the ball was too tight and outside. And it's funny because Karch was known for not going line much either. Except when he went goofy footed. Yeah. He would usually go smash cross, and that's the way I would go sharp across. But it's funny that he did the same feeling thing that I did by accident but he learned to do it on purpose.
It's like you two are like...
No, it's just, I think it's a common thing for left side players. I think a lot of left side players go cross, 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 cross.
Oh, yeah.
But then they go through that, that set's going to make me come, I got to take an extra step. And then it helps you go line easier. I remember too, I think I used to hear that he would intentionally go inside the line a little more on his approach when he wanted to go line. That was kind of one of his tells.
Okay.
So maybe he figured out, okay, I can't be so obvious. I'm going to go add that extra step in here.
I could see that because goofy foot, it throw the blocker off completely because now you no longer need to come in on this angle, right? You can directional step with your right and then just go. You have to like your broad jump gets you into the 2 foot approach and then you can go up. And then I know I did it once unintentionally, but it just happened.
And didn't you kill the ball?
Well, I just felt I was able to hit the ball properly.
Yeah.
Because if you're left-handed and you try to do your normal approach, you have to do this crossover step and you just lose all your power because you can't swing.
Yeah, on the ball that's a little bit outside.
Yeah, you have to like swing like 270 degrees. It just doesn't work, right?
Oh.
So it just makes a lot more sense. And you're actually, when you jump goofy footed, you still stay shoulders upright, square to the ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny too because one of Karch's most famous kills was I think was it the gold medal clinching kill in Atlanta or maybe the semis, but I think it was the final where he goes up and it's like a super tight ball a little bit outside of him and he goes almost horizontal in the air like he just cranks it straight down the line and he lands in the sand like he lands on his butt.
Do you think it was a goofy footed approach?
I think it was. I'll bet you any money it was because he went so hard down the line.
Yeah.
That and like I said, he was reaching like he was horizontal like this way with his arm over his head more. So it must have been a set that was a little bit outside. So
You're right.
And he was super close to the ball. That's what I found. It gets me close to the ball, close to the net, so I'm more vertical.
You would favor line on that. I think for sure.
Yes, and it's weird. Like I've done it by accident in my life. Oh man, that was a really good line shot.
Yeah,
really sharp down. And I'm like, how can I recreate that?
I kind of want to practice. Yeah, I know. I want to practice it.
Yeah, it's literally almost as simple as just adding an extra step. Like you just have to take one more step. That gets you closer there.
I think it's especially on the beach, like what we were talking about the other day, is just again not starting too far off the net, just like seeing the ball and starting in a relaxed position because it's just however you take that directional step and when your hands first swing forward. You know what I mean? I think that's the big thing. And like you don't need to have a huge multi-step attack or approach on the beach. Yeah. Because the pass should be relatively close. The set should be generally a little bit close. But then if it happens to go too far outside, if we practice it, we can have the ability to just be like, oh, I'm going with right foot first. Automatically you're in goofy foot approach. Right?
Yeah. And I never like teaching players on the beach to like, it happens. I mean, you pass and then you run outside, right? That way there's no such thing as a set that's too far outside because you're coming at this hard angle. But I'm not a huge fan of it because like there's so many factors like wind and and then like you're so far out of the court and like
why don't we to finish our tangent, why don't you explain the thing that you were telling me the other day, right? Of your the pro in Colombia what he told you.
Oh yeah, so the key. I mean, I guess we're way off topic.
We're way off, but I may as well close it.
The advice is like if you decide early on what you're doing, defenders and blockers love it because
indoor or outdoor, you're screwed.
Yeah. So when I was playing in Colombia, this older guy that I played against would say like he could tell that I was like a little too obvious, and so he said like defenders and blockers love it when you decide early. So you want to take off a little closer to the ball, go straight up, and then he's the rise and think motto of beach volleyball. He said to me, where you get up in the air and then you decide what you're going to do. And the beauty of that is that if you're up high enough and you're thinking like that, the defender doesn't know what you're going to do either. So you go up, you see what's happening, you look on your way in your spike approach, you might go up and do a little, a lot of cutties and a lot of shots. And it's hard swings. Like one of my favorite swings is the inside out swing where your shoulder finishes out.
And I think this is what the whole tangent is all about. Utilizing the goofy footed approach is just to get into that position where you can still jump effectively well behind the ball, right? See everything and then just make a decision. Yeah, you're not broad jumping as much, so yes, you're not going to have as much velocity behind the ball, but you're on the beach. You don't need that.
Well, it's funny because like
you can still bounce it, but
if you watch Taylor Crabb today, like he's still doing that. Like he's coming in, he's not even doing goofy foot. I think Karch did it as a specific tactic to do shots, but like if if you just go closer to the ball, you're going to get high up vertical. And then the proper swing today is the snap down, which is going to be way more harder than flying in broad jump even.
Yeah.
Because, the broad jump is a trap because then you're flying.
You're hard committed.
You're hard committed, and any late decision, then you're going to be off balance in the air. You're going to look weird and doing some last minute thing versus the person who comes in up. Like watch Taylor Sander. He goes like very high vertical.
Yeah.
And then he'll carve, snap, super sharp, whatever, and roll, right? And dink and poke and it's just rise and think and then ball and sand. Those are the two things.
You said dink, think. Rise thing, yeah, okay.
So like rise and think and ball. Oh, you're making it's a family show.
Sorry, you said
Come
it.
on,
I haven't heard it called a dink.
First, you're talking about party balls in the back. And what did you say?
What?
Party balls in the back?
Yeah, it says I'm 48 on the front and
party balls in the back or on the back?
No, on the
party
on
balls
the back.
On my back.
Yes,
on your back. Anyway,
now no one's listening.
Rise and think and ball in sand. Those are two, and any means you just get the ball on the sand any way possible. Too many people are caught up in how it looks and how it, how do I come across, but just get up in the air and get that ball onto the sand,
and you'll see. And you'll see, and then you make your decision.
Mm-hmm. This is the wrong show. Anyway,
yeah.
But the beach is the option where kids will find their freedom. If you can get them into beach, that's a huge way. And not only that, like the point I was making about the pepper is if you come back off the beach, let's play like 6 months of beach or several months of beach because you didn't get your indoor break or you didn't get your indoor spot. There's a really good chance you'll come back to indoor in the fall better than the kids who played indoor. You know what I mean? Because you'll be all around skill development. Yeah. Stronger, stabilize their muscles. Cardio's better. Strength is better. Control will be better because you've done all those skills. Yeah. Way more often with just 2 players, right? So beach is a great option.
Beach is huge.
I think that like the biggest thing is like the emotional letdown of getting cut. I think the first thing is like teach your kid perspective on like we talked about the sport and like who they are and what this doesn't have to define them totally. And I think that there's other places to like so many kids I think put like all their all their eggs in one team, and if that's the team they don't make, then their whole thing is ruined. But you get better. Like I saw a parent that asked a question about like should my kid get touches at some place where they're better. They're clearly better than everybody there, and I don't think like volleyball is kind of interesting because like if you're playing with worse players, it's still valuable. Yeah, because the unpredictability of the worst player can be like wow. Like bad teams can be really good teams, like in beach especially, because the unpredictability. You can always work on your ready position and yeah, exactly, the reaction, and then your form with your whatever type of ball handling you're doing. Passing, you can just literally passing alone. Right? Yeah, even just getting passing reps is gold. It's so true. The unpredictability actually makes it. Because it's funny, like if you can partner with a good player and you guys are just hitting it exactly at each other, so you're not really and you can make it like so like not strenuous right, and then all of a sudden you start to move the ball around a little bit or like partner with someone who hasn't before, and now you're working really hard. Well, how many times have you like destroyed a good team and then struggled against a really bad team? Unorthodox, sending it over on 1-2, surprise, 1-2, whatever, accidental, chicken wing digs, because you're just not ready. Yeah. So those are sometimes like I'll tell like when my kids were playing, and we knew they were playing against a team that's not 3 hit. Like just being a team that's not 3 hits, is like considered lower level volleyball. But those are the ones that can give good teams a hard time because then you're mindful of like, I can't roll short against this team. Because we're both at the net, and they're just going to bump it over. You got to roll deep, and then you learn all these little things. Right? Yeah, you can't cheat on defense and get to the position where you usually goes. You actually have to do honest, true defense, which is like get to the tee, check there, and then check the set, then get back. So you have to like be ready for anything. You have to prove to them that structured, systematic volleyball is better, but you have to be an athlete and actually do it. Yeah, and nowhere is that more evident when I was coaching young players and we were learning system. Remember this? And then the other teams are playing this Wild West volleyball, and they would beat us in the early days because we were committed to a system, and the kids hadn't learned that they can leave those positions and read players. They were too busy about learning where to be on their side, sort of
Setter coming up when it's a free ball.
Yeah, and then the other team's just like, oh, okay, bumping it over in the middle of the pot, and our team's
working.
like all in ready position and they're all teed up, but they're like, oh crap, we forgot to move. But in the long run, you'll win doing the positional stuff and fundamental stuff. But it's just so. I think that people are a little too picky about where they're sending their kids to play, not knowing that skills can develop in isolation. You know what I mean? Like, let's suppose you're a setter and everybody there is bad at passing. Well, what an opportunity to set a lot of bad passes or work on your footwork. If you're a libero who, the teammates that you're sitting with, they're not good setters, not good hitters, whatever. Well, every serve receive and every broken ball that comes over the net, tape shots, whatever. What a great opportunity for you to get into that, because there's some complacency in predictability, right? And so that's sort of what we're talking about here is we become complacent playing, as established players. Whereas I just told you I was watching a bunch of players play like a rec league yesterday where they were all like it was bad fundamentals, but they were good hitters, decent digs, and the rallies just went on forever because none of them were the complacent ones. They weren't in the right position. They were in the wrong positions, but they were just reacting to craziness. Whereas my kid was out there like scrimmaging with them and some other good players that we knew, and they would have the hard times because they're like, oh, I can't really play 6 back here. Now I'm too shallow.
You don't know where the ball's going to go.
I got to dig a ball that's coming too deep, and then and the blocker's not there, so I'm in no man's land here. So it's just an interesting thing where the predictability makes you complacent, and sometimes good players, when they go into those settings, they actually mentally can use it as a real opportunity.
Well, because I think that's it. Is you're mentally checking out a little bit. You're just kind of going into autopilot of just like the typical movements on the court.
So just what you're used to.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
which so when you see something chaotic,
reaction.
So it's I think that young kids. I mean, imagine if you do go into those environments, you're going to get better. And also, by the way, in community ball, you're going to get to do things that your coaches might not let you do. Like you're going to get to set, you're going to get to pass if you're a tall player, if you're a middle, you're going to get to spin serve or work on float serves or do something your coach might not want you to do. You get to take risk taking on the court. It's very free, so I think there's some advantages to getting into community ball.
Well, so let us know if you have no leagues at where you're at. Just let us know in the comments, and we'll start a league up out there.
Yeah, that's what we're turning this into. Yeah. No, it's like, well, I think in the States, I think like the YMCAs, there's usually
as soon as you're like 16, hopefully.
I think even younger, they have youth programs.
That'd be awesome.
And YMCAs and community programs. I think everybody, like every town has. You just have to find them. There's like indoor beach facilities. A lot of them in the States. There's indoor court facilities that are private, public. I mean, just do some digging. And don't be so bound to like the this picture of what volleyball has to look like for you. Like even so next year, my daughter, like she knows it's a realistic like this is one of the best teams in our province and one of the best teams in the country.
She knows it's gonna be tough.
She knows it's gonna be tough, and then and she knows that she has some things to offer, but she's fully prepared to go in to play intramural. There's high level intramurals it seems at the university. And she's gonna train and she's gonna go do beach, and she's still gonna probably try the year after that. And even she's already said she might get into like some personal training or something after, so she might go to college and play afterwards in a smaller school where she can get at least that out of her system, the post-secondary play, because it is tough because this team is like already won the state championship and they're in the provincial championship and they're almost won that very high showing at the nationals.
Is that good right now?
Yeah, they're the best. They're the best right now, like in Ontario and one of the top 5 in Canada. So Badgers
are tough animals. They're terrifying.
They are.
They're terrifying animals.
We just did a show for Brock University. Maybe that'll help her chances. No, I'm just kidding.
What about the the whole question? You can do this with any topic, but like, is life harder now than it was like 30, 40 years ago? Is the letdown for kids harder now than it is when you got cut?
When I got cut, well, all those times.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah. In our era was, I guess it doesn't. Don't you think it
Because for sure, getting cut sucks.
Yeah,
I do remember.
I think today the reactions are much worse across the board. Even if it meant more to kids, like let's suppose the kid back then loved it more. The reaction today is worse.
It probably lingers on longer because of the phone, which is funny because the phone is such a short-lived thing.
Yeah,
but like for someone who's, you don't like the word, but I talk about jealousy and stuff
no,
like that.
no, it's real. I just don't like you using.
Yeah,
it.
I know what you mean.
I wish you didn't
Thank
feel
you.
that way.
Um,
I want to hug you.
just
How about a little hug? Dr. Evil.
not bad. Yeah,
Dr. Evil.
not bad.
Anyway,
So like when something happens now, like a kid can see other kids posting on social media for like a whole week or something, like
the whole year.
yeah, it's like, oh, I made it, blah blah, like so it's just like you're trying to get over this, right? Like, and so when I got cut back in the day for hockey for AAA or whatever, it sucked for probably 2 days or 3 days. And then it was like, whatever.
Yes. You
So-
didn't have to live on. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It's that's one of the things about social media in general.
And now-
Everything just goes
You can
on
just
forever.
constantly compare yourself, right?
Yes.
And then, yeah. So I think
And
that's,
I also think too, though, because of that same thing, like we talked about before, like I did an episode. I think I did the confidence episode, and we should probably do one on smartphones specifically. But
yeah.
see, because you grow up in social media land,
Mm.
you are more self-obsessed because of what you're talking about. Like you're always comparing yourself, right? And those synapses are firing. So the misery of not making it today is so much more dramatic because you are going into that tryout almost for the wrong
hyperactive
and almost
state.
for the wrong reason.
Right.
Like you're almost linking it up not with like, oh, I love the sport, to like my whole image is based on this now, versus the kid 30 years ago who like got cut. Sucked.
That
I
must be
wanted this.
happening.
It is because like you're
Yeah.
so like because the more time you spend on social media, the more you're firing those comparative synapses. So like when you're scrolling through, you're just like comparing yourself to fake presentations of people.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, the more. This is why people are so insecure now and self-obsessed more than ever
Yeah.
before, because they're like in their head. I don't have that. I don't have that. I gotta get that. I gotta get that. And they go out to the court, and now it's not just I love
You're
the
just like,
sport.
It's all elevated.
It's not now I love the sport. This is like my whole sense of self. I have
Right.
to make all those people. It's all sitting in your head. The comparison. So when you don't make a team, you blow up, right? And when your kid doesn't make the team, you blow up. Or when you're coaching and your team is losing, you blow up. You know, because you're watching all these things, and your brain is in compare mode all the time.
Yeah.
So that's messing up people's sense of perspective.
Yeah.
That's why we're like this. That's why everybody's losing their minds right now over everything, because they just can't. They're not patient anymore. They don't see big picture. They're too busy wrapped up in what everybody else is doing, and that's why that jealousy word. Like I was like, there was a time like I'm lucky that I grew up in the time I did, because I just like I have the tech knowledge of things, but my formative years weren't spent comparing. Otherwise, I would have been like jealous and bitter when I didn't get things that I wanted.
No, a bit of that is a natural human tendency, like, and that's been around for millennia.
100%.
Comparison, right? Or
But
envy.
we've never had the comparison in our pocket. you
Yeah.
know? Like
So
that's the difference. I
yeah.
mean, this is like 24/7 on you. It's like nothing before in human history. Like even when I was a kid, so like we had celebrities in magazines and we had celebrities in movies and pro sports, but all of us knew that the photos were airbrushed, or most of us.
Yeah.
All of us knew that this was fake land.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole different world. And that's why people never went for big dreams back then, because they were like, wow, that's just that's like winning the lottery, and what's the use in trying that? And that's where parents today still tell their kids, oh, you can't be a famous actor, you can't be a famous singer. But today it's a little more possible, right? But today the kids are like, that kid that you're seeing that's airbrushed and with a filter on their face is in your chemistry class. Like it's everybody. It's everybody. It's not even like, it's not far away celebrity land. It's the kid on my volleyball team. It's the kid that, you know what I mean? Like
I think
they're all airbrushing and filtered and
right. I don't know
weird.
how true it is, but I heard some stats, probably from some whatever tabloid thing, but like many kids nowadays are considering, or they think they want to be a YouTube star, Instagram star,
Right,
TikTok
yes.
star. And I'm sure there's also a lot of truth in that, right?
Mhm.
Because there's got to be a rush to it being, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 18 years old. You make a post and all of a sudden it goes crazy and like 15,000 people like click on it.
Yep.
That's got to be like a huge little
Dopamine rush.
big dopamine rush,
Yeah.
that little rock star feeling, right?
Huge little
Yeah.
dopamine rush.
Huge little.
That's what she said.
I know. Huge little.
That's what she said. What?
What?
Huge. Anyway, no, but see, that's interesting because too, and we've talked about this before on
And
the
that's
show.
that neural connection that you're talking about, right? That's really reinforcing that.
Yeah, and also like so, just getting back to that, like because that also is the same thing with like the same thing that makes them want to be YouTubers without the hard work,
Yeah.
or without the knowledge of what that means. Like, you know, your favorite YouTuber, like if you're listening to this and you're a teenager, your favorite person on social media, or whatever, your influencer that you're talking about, they work their ass off for that.
Yeah.
They're like even as us, speaking as someone who's done like this podcast every week for these shows, it's a real commitment. 51 weeks.
Crazy.
It's a real commitment of time and it's hard work. And so whenever we hear someone saying that they want to do it, we're like, go for it.
Yeah.
But just be ready because it's, it's a grind. Like even us, sometimes we've been here late at night recording to get our show in for the week. It's a real commitment, right? So that's another part of it that's so toxic, I think, with the volleyball tryout thing too, is like everybody's they're comparing themselves to the end result.
Yeah.
Like the YouTuber, I want that. They're comparing to the business executive. Oh, I want to be a shark, like on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. I want to be a pro athlete.
I want
like
to be a shark.
Yeah, I want to be like LeBron or like, I want to be, but they're not seeing all of the layers of work underneath that. Same with the volleyball team. They're like, I want to be like that. Like, so I give the speech to my kids all the time. I said to my daughter just today, actually, because he was talking about going to this volleyball camp that you're running right now with us. And I was like, so listen, like she said, I don't think I want to go. I'm tired from the pickup last night. I'm like, that's cool. If you don't want to go, that's fine. But I know if I were trying out for one of the best teams in the nation in a couple weeks, I would try to get every touch as I could. If you want, like, I'm just saying, like, if these kids are good enough that you can get some passing reps, if you want,
and then that's going to make her rest more as well.
Yeah, and I said, well, also like, so like, I'm like, I want, like, I understand like the need for rest, and I understand the need for, but I said part of the reason why you're so sore today is because you're maybe not in game shape because you played a bit last night in the heat, and that's fine, but maybe you're not in indoor shape yet,
Yeah.
And I said, like,
that is a thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I'm like, you're talking about a decision here, which is fine. You don't have to. Like I said, always say this. I'm not pushing this for me. But if you're going to be devastated by not playing for 4 years, I'm going to do as much as I can, get my rest.
Right.
But this is not a lot of volleyball. You're going to play against like little high school kids here.
Yeah.
And just getting some reps. And they're good enough that you can get some reps. I said, you don't have to swing. You have to do anything.
That's why our service so good today.
Well, it's just I said, it's just touch. I said, get out there, get the touches. Get the touches, get the reps. You're not, I mean, you got beach playoffs. He said, I got beach volleyball playoffs tonight. I go, but it's beach playoffs in a really crappy league.
Yeah.
It's a sixes league, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
they play with the four of them, don't they?
Yeah, they play with the four. A few of them were away. And I'm like, so it's not really a lot of volleyball that you have today. Like, it's just, you're.
Come home and nap.
Yeah, you're building up. So I said, and then she goes, you know what, I'll go. And I was like, yeah, because it mattered. Like, you want this. So put in the work is the point of that. Like, I'm like, all these people today that want to make the team, want to be the YouTuber, they are comparing it to the finish. Like, I remember we said this earlier, like, people are looking at the finish line and saying, I want that, but they don't see the nightmare.
That's the other thing with the phone is it shows you the end product.
That's
the end product is that person selling you a product, and that's what.
Yes.
So the thing that you're jealous
or selling you an image,
selling you an image,
even if it's just your like someone not selling.
That's what I mean.
It's all fake land.
That is their product,
right?
Is their
themselves,
image.
Yeah.
Right. And then the fact that you're looking at it is the sale of the product or
the image, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you're judging them and you're thinking that they're being honest with you.
Yeah.
And even if they are, like, let's suppose they've attained something great, you're still seeing it from the wrong side. You're not seeing the work. Yeah. I love that one. Remember that famous motivational poster about the iceberg? Where it's like everybody sees this, but they don't know what's all underneath the surface of the water. I mean, that's basically how we are. And so
that was in school, in high school.
Yeah, and you just didn't. Yeah.
No, I saw it. I was like, oh, that's cool.
No, but I mean, we saw it, but we don't really until we get older.
Until you have to apply it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Until you have to apply it. Exactly. So I think that's another thing that, like, it's tied into our perspective thing where, like, some kids want the result of the tryout without putting in the work, and then that leads to more, and they're there for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
They're there for the clout, not the sheer love of the sport. And And that leads to even worse reactions than people 30 years ago. I think 30 years ago was like, oh, crap. 'Cause they were just upset about not being on the team. They didn't care about the public image because there was no public place to display it much, other than the worst day was maybe, running up to check that team list and not seeing your name. I hated doing that as a coach. Like, I just pictured kids like showing up and not seeing their name. And I was like, oh, so. But today they just put everybody on the team. No, I'm just kidding. No, they don't. That's why I'm doing the show. Well, actually, not in club world. In club world, it's really tough.
Yeah.
Especially for girls, because there's so many more girls playing.
Yeah.
A lot of good players not making it. I think I saw something today about some organization that's trying to do, like we were talking about doing this too, like, those university towns where there's got to be a ton of club players, especially on the female side, who don't have a place to play after club. And maybe it's because, like, maybe it's not a good idea because maybe a lot of them are playing for their parents. But imagine like leagues in university towns for upper teenage girls.
Is that why universities run extramurals? Because it's a source of income for them?
Intramurals are popular. The only thing is intramurals is that I find that most schools don't have great intramurals. Like, I mean, a lot of times you get everybody
huge
coming
variation,
out. Yeah, lots. So it becomes like a phys ed class, unless it's super, like, they're not organized, like tiered. I find like they don't
the one at
put the effort into tiering.
Where I went was pretty good.
At where?
At Durham and UIT.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I hear that's a good one. Yeah.
It was
that's
tiered.
extramural though, isn't it? Isn't
yeah,
that where
what's
they
the
play?
difference?
So extramurals are where they play against other universities.
No, it wasn't that.
Oh, okay. So intramurals. It was in the school. Yeah.
It may have been extramurals in regards like the college and the university.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
It was a campus where there's a college and university combined. So
yeah, if they tier it, then that's good. Yeah, that makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, it was actually decent.
Good. Yeah. But see, that's interesting. That means there's a lot of good players not trying out for varsity.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot, yeah.
Yeah, well, especially that university doesn't have a varsity team and they can't play for the college.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Why? I don't... And they allowed bridge programs for certain programs, but not that one. I don't know.
I don't know why
for
they
hockey
haven't...
it was allowed.
This is a local university that's fairly new in our area that opened up, and for the first few years they allowed varsity athletes from university students to play for the college because the college was more established. They shared the same campus. But now, like in the volleyball program, there's established volleyball men's and women's teams at the college, and the university students aren't able to try out or play for them. Right. So I don't know why they haven't tried to start a university volleyball team there. Well, imagine that. What that would do for Durham, like for the area. Wow.
Yeah. But it takes out of your total amount of varsity sport funding.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And they are a football school, and that is a massive amount.
Oh, they do have a big football program.
Yeah, and the college added rugby as well, so
interesting.
It just doesn't fit.
But volleyball is such a big sport now. Like, it's so popular.
Yeah. Well, I think...
It's not super expensive.
The school is growing like crazy, though, so probably in 10 years, they will probably add it.
Yeah, hopefully sooner. Hopefully sooner than 10 years. That's a ways away. I'll be in my 40s in 10 years.
Yeah. Still hitting party balls.
That's what you call a continuity error in the show. He already said he was.
Wait a second.
Look, his glass is empty, and then the next scene, it's full. You ever see those movies? You ever watch movies with people like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Oh darn.
You mean this is fake?
He drank the water. Oh man.
You mean this movie's fake?
Yeah.
Like it's not real?
Yeah. Oh.
In the first season, the Fresh Prince's mom looked like this, and then by season 3, remember that they switched the Fresh Prince's mom.
Did they?
You didn't know? You didn't notice that?
Wow.
You grew up in the Fresh Prince era.
I did.
You didn't notice that the mom totally changed two
After
seasons?
The first season?
First season, I believe, yeah. They switched the mom.
I don't even remember what she looks like.
Oh, my God.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, it was right after, I think, Will Smith slapped... no, just kidding. That's called an anachronism. No, but... well, Eric looks this up. I'll talk about what else. How could you...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, can you use getting cut? You didn't notice that? How do you know? You have to show me. I know. Eric's showing.
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago, man. How do you expect me to remember this?
So I just made that joke that was a continuity error. It's kind of funny. Like if they didn't mean to. I think that's funny. They accidentally got the wrong. No, but there's rumors that the original mom didn't get along with Will Smith because she thought he was like too cocky.
Violent?
Not violent. Too cocky.
Because
he was getting famous.
In season 1.
I think he was 19 when he started that show. He was like.
Probably.
Anyway, we don't want to get political.
Yeah, don't want to.
Anyway, But do you think there's something? So like, is there something good that can happen? How can you frame? So if you're a parent listening to this and your kid gets cut and they're very upset, what can a parent say to a kid to help them frame it better?
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't have kids, but like you
don't have to have kids.
There's a lot of good in getting cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is
you would know.
Yes. Yes.
I had to get you back.
But like I don't know what you can just help the kid get through the thing and realize that it's actually good for their growth.
So what would you say to a young player, Eric, in one of your camps who said, "I got cut from the volleyball team. It sucks. I'm not going to play volleyball for a year."
I'd say, well, don't worry about it too much. There's other sports to play. There's more volleyball to play.
You say, hey, look on the bright side. At least I can still play.
Did you go out and did you try your hardest? Like, did you give it a solid effort? Like, how do you feel? Like, how you did at the thing? And then they'll say, I don't know, you can be the kid.
Okay, so I'd say, this is good. We're getting into some role play.
Oh, wow.
So...
How do you feel like you played?
Coach, no, just stop. Okay, stop it. No, I would say.
Hopefully, the
yeah.
kid
So
says,
let's do this. No, I would say like, so yeah, I got cut from my volleyball team. It kind of sucked because I thought I should have made it, but I didn't make it.
Right. And then, I'd be like, all
no,
right.
Don't stop saying. I'd be like, I'm saying.
It's hard.
I didn't make it.
Well,
I didn't make it.
That's tough. That's tough. You didn't make it. Hopefully you tried your hardest. How do you feel like you did at the tryout? Were there kids better than you there, or maybe should I even get into that topic there? With
I think there were kids. Yeah, there were a lot of good. You can talk about. There were a lot of good players there, but like I don't know. I just really wanted to make the team, and I didn't make it as usual because and that's the thing. How do I get better if I don't make the teams?
There's other volleyball to play. This acting is hard. This is the worst. This is radio acting too. I guess it's on film, but not really.
There. Yeah. If you're for those just listening, Eric is.
I'm a better coach of this. I swear.
Eric is gently patting me on the shoulder. There.
I'm just looking at
player
Kid
X.
Zuby here. I'm sorry you got cut.
No,
I'll just not look at you. How do I do that?
Yeah, I think I've had kids say stuff like this, and I always go into the whole. So if I'm a parent, I always go into the value of facing adversity and even unfairness, right? So there is value in facing, having a bitter taste of something at a young age. Like it stings and it hurts and that's okay. And that's part of why we do sport. Like, cause you're going to have losses. If you make the team, you're going to have injuries. If you make the team, you're going to have all these things that are just part of life. And even injustice, by the way. So even if you feel you were ripped off, it's good to learn about that stuff. And the key is how you react to these things. So what do? Do you cave? Do you stop? Do you give up? Or do you push and fight and return? Find those alternatives, like other places to play and train and work hard and come back the next year? Or do you pack it in and quit? Because if you just pack it in and quit, I would submit to you or to parents listening or kids that they're not in it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't quit if you're really in wanting something. Right.
That's why I was thinking, ask them about how they feel they performed or whatever, their effort. Like, did they give it their all? And then from there, maybe they'll be like, you'll come to understand that it wasn't about their effort. It was about I was expecting to be on this team because, like we were talking about, part of the image that they're creating. And then you identify, well, you're not playing this for the love of the sport or actually loving volleyball. Mm-hmm. You're doing this for something else, and then. Maybe volleyball isn't the right thing for them. But there's a whole other thing going on.
So you're talking about the sport now?
No. But there's a whole other thing going on there.
Have you tried pickleball?
If they're into it just for the image, yes. Hopefully you're not just discovering that, or maybe you are as a parent, you're just discovering it right then and there.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks.
I like to, I don't mean to cut you off, but I like when you said, one thing I would do is, did you work hard? I would define what working hard is. So what's your definition of working hard?
Right.
Well, I went to the tryouts and I did everything. So what did you do before the tryouts?
Yeah.
Nothing. What did you do? Did you do any, reps in the backyard? Did you do any exercise, any training? Did you do any, scrimmages all summer? Did you play beach? So, you know what I mean? Like, there's different variations. A lot of people's definition of trying is going to the tryout and working hard.
Yeah.
And I would submit that's kind of like the iceberg thing. Like, the tryout is just here. There's all this stuff.
Will the Tim Grover just show up?
Yeah. Tim Grover was the trainer of Kobe and Michael, right?
Yeah.
No, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's that people's definitions of trying hard. It's like when you ask someone, are you a competitive person? And they think that competitive means that they get angry when they lose, when really competitive people work really hard on things when nobody's around, right? That's the difference. So
go check that episode out. We'll link it right here.
Stop it.
Sorry.
Eric still thinks he's acting.
Right here.
I don't know. Now you're making it all sort. I know I'm gonna have to.
Now you gotta
links
put a
and
link
crazy
everywhere. Yeah.
Where did we do an episode on that? On what?
On competitive, we talked about defining competitiveness.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we did a dedicated show to it. I think we did.
I don't think we did.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Everything's a blur.
Okay, I won't point.
Yeah, don't point. Yeah. But so that's where, like, just I like to identify for kids what working hard really means, because they think they know what it means, but they generally think it's like saying, did you work hard on the test? And they're like, yeah, I was writing and writing. And I'm like, really, did you study the night before? Hell no.
That's a good analogy.
So
like that.
Yeah. So if you're doing So if you're getting cut, stop it.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. So I think that's one thing I would do is, like, comfort parents, or I'll help your kid frame it as a positive experience.
Yeah.
And maybe they can take it forward into other areas of their life where they're like prep and hard. We talked about this too, right? Preparation is a really interesting thing because it takes out stress on perform. When there's times when you need to perform,
yeah,
preparation helps you get rid of the stress. Because, like, why is it that someone who's played a lot of any sport can walk into a gym and just start coaching randomly, or just give a speech on their sport without a lot of prep? Because they know their stuff. Yeah. And so they're not nervous. They're calm, right? And once, same with an athlete who preps and preps and preps, generally it should reduce the stress, right, of the situation, because they've done more reps.
That serve is now insignificant, or
it's hard to get at age like 15 or 16, but by the time you go through your volleyball journey, preparation is a neat little, like, people talk about life hacks, but that's a nice little secret. It's not the secret people want to hear, by the way, like hard work. Yeah. Like people want everything, in a little capsule or a pill or something. They want the easy route. Yeah. But if you just tell them, man, it's just hard work. Like, that was the neat thing in that
hard work will beat out skill and talent, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned Tim Grover, because I don't know if you remember, or if you got to the point of the book where so this guy,
Relentless or Winner?
In Relentless, I think.
I need to get back to it.
Well, so Tim Grover, by the way, if he's written this great book called Relentless, and a follow up to it as well. He was the trainer for Michael Jordan and trainer for Kobe. Actually, Jordan let Kobe have him. Yes. He was the only guy that he told Tim Grover, I'll let you go train Kobe Bryant because he's got it. Yeah. And Tim Grover, though, said a fascinating thing. The difference between Kobe and Michael was that Michael had it already and knew how to work hard at, like, maintaining and, like, adding the extras. Kobe was all work to become, like, yeah, and so he wasn't. And
Jordan was the original, right? And then
not just Jordan was sort of emulating Michael, right? He wanted to be like.
Sorry, Kobe was emulating Jordan.
Kobe was emulating Michael Jordan, so he was the guy who had to do more work. Michael didn't have to put in that type of work like Kobe did.
Oh, okay.
Jordan had it, and Kobe wanted it, and so Kobe just put himself in work mode. And if you look at the numbers and stats, like, Kobe's shooting percentage was pretty bad. Like, he shot a lot to get numbers that were like average numbers that Jordan was getting on way higher percentages. Wow. That's the difference between the two of them, is that he said Jordan had it and Kobe worked to become him. Right. Which is in some ways more impressive, right? Yeah. Like, he just wanted to be Jordan.
Right. I think as, like, a general rule, like, hard work will eventually beat out, like, talent and skill. But if you have incredible talent and skill and already
and
hard work. Yeah,
that's what Jordan had.
That's what.
That's why Jordan's so like lethal.
Yeah,
because I would say Karch Karai in the volleyball world is, a lot of guys today. There's a lot of great players out there that work their asses off. But if you're a mediocre player who works their ass off as a junior, as a kid, you're probably gonna walk into situations where you do very well.
Yeah.
But it's that prep.
Well, and exactly.
And you're not doing it for the camera. You're not sharing it on Instagram.
The one who's working hard, you're getting way more reps, right? Like it's going to be easy to do anything. You're not going to be worried about anything because you've done it so many times. You're doing weights. You know how your arm feels and works and what it's capable of, how hard you can swing. You're not worried about injuries because you've been forgetting about them and procrastinating, like taking care of it or whatever. Like you've been doing the weights. It's confidence building, right?
Yeah, and more importantly, not even for on the court, right? Off the court. Like the kid that does all that hard work in life becomes a little easier. Life has better perspective, which is really like we go back to on the show a lot. That is the point of youth sports, that it's really the value in sports is not winning medals, not even getting the starting lineup, or maybe even making every team.
Yeah. The
value is the peaks, the valleys, the suffering of getting cut, right? Like getting cut is kind of like training you for breakups or getting fired or not getting a job or not, failing in business one day. Like that's what that is.
Right. Let's talk about the kids who are not getting cut.
Right.
Because they're just getting early signed or something. And then like they're
losing.
There's a consequence to that. Not having the competitiveness.
Not feeling like you earned it necessarily.
Yeah. And now
fighting for
they're going to be expecting the rest of their life to be like that.
That's a big part of it.
That's a huge setup for failure.
Yeah. It's, I agree. It's,
right?
We talked about this
early sign for 4 years in a row straight, and then you got to go off to varsity. You go to try out, and then you get cut. That's where your first experience of failure happens, right? Mm-hmm. You want that to happen as soon as possible.
Yes,
like another theme that's come up before, right?
Yeah, early bad things are good things.
Yeah,
because that's a great point. That's another reason why a lot of kids are reacting and parents are reacting so weirdly and over the top because they haven't had an experience.
Yeah,
or they maybe haven't had an honest tryout. Like I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I understand why the clubs do it and the fear of losing players and the politics and everybody running around. But I just think, like, man, there's one answer to fix that. We keep going back to it. You just make sure your coaching is impeccable. You might have to pay them. You might have to charge a little more for your fees.
Wouldn't it be a great idea for some of these clubs to this could be fundraising, is to just offer leagues? Like fun open like leagues where there's like no coach or whatever, you can just come play fours.
I know. Well, this is so
like,
a lot of
wouldn't that be brilliant?
Well, a lot of club teams have sort of in our area, like they have started doing that, and it's good. But the problem is it's just a whole other. Like it's a lot. Like we do it, and it's a lot of work. It's like a full-time thing
for sure.
To operate.
It's not an easy thing to do.
A lot of them do instructional stuff, like that, and that's sort of why we left that market.
And if they did like one night a week.
I know, but the problem is with that, like they're already they don't even have to complicate their lives that much. All they have to do is like, what if they raise the price of their club by $100 per player?
Well, yeah, you're already gonna,
and then you just give that to the coach,
right?
And then you attract maybe a better coach, right? Through that. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, sorry. I was thinking of the reason of offering more volleyball to the kids who don't make the team.
Oh, right? Yeah, they do that too. But see, this club is weird, right? Like so they're doing their instructional things, which are good, and they use their club name to bring them in, which is good.
Yeah, because I mean, you raise the price, now you're already going to cut another portion of kids, anyways, right?
A lot of clubs do. A lot of clubs do offer house leagues. They really do. It's just, but what I mean is like it doesn't. It gets them in, but
for kids who aren't on the team.
Yeah, kids who aren't on the teams, they do have house leagues, and there's a lot of kids who like go to school with their shirt on, and they tell kids that they're playing for the club, even though they're not. They're just in the house league, and there's this whole weird status thing around being in the the kids on the outside who aren't in the club at all, and then there's the house league kids who get looked down upon by the. So there's still this weird like, well, I gotta get up there.
Popularity things.
I gotta get up to that team. I'm just in the house. This is a weird game, but see, that's the problem.
A good point,
well, that's the problem with club. Like the cool thing about organizations that aren't associated with any club is that they don't have that weird stigma attached, like this hierarchy thing, because the club name, like if you're going to play in a club, then there's instantly like, oh, they're just playing house league among the players. You know what I mean? Versus if you just go outside of that to like the YMCA or like, Envato or whatever, and you're
go free of that.
You're kind of like, it doesn't matter. And you have the That's shirt true. And there's nobody can say that you're playing with that, because there's not this weird, because I always see that like one of the things that like I like about what we do and what organizations like us do is that we're outside of that sort of toxic judgment
the
world.
Separation is really good, actually.
And it's tiered, so like if you're good, you get to play what you want, and then, but like I love not being, remember we talked about this a little bit, like not being attached to any like if one of our, I remember one time we did have like one of our coaches when we were doing our youth leagues, they were coaching with a specific club and they had mentioned it to players, and I said no, and we got an email complaints from other parents who were like, hey, our kids are with other clubs and we heard your coach was talking about that club, and I told our coaches, listen,
you cannot
you can't talk about this. Is our whole point is to be outside of that world. We want everybody to feel welcome here and to feel like they can play. It's a great mixing ground where like kids from different clubs can come and compete with each other, or friends who are playing on different teams can actually show up. And then we got club teams that were like pissed off with us because they were like, oh, I don't want my kids like going to play with other kids. I'm like, so you don't want your kids to have
get
fun,
more reps and
get more reps and get better? Like what you don't own these people. And that's why part of this start of the show was like clubs like wanting to pee on players and own them. Like, you don't own this player. You don't own volleyball. You just
something they do.
And you don't, like, the best coaches would be like confident enough to let their kid, oh great, you're doing that, awesome, get some reps. Like, oh, you have a chance for a clinic with some pro player, that's awesome, go do it, rather than banning them from doing it. So I think there's something nice about getting outside the club world, because
for sure,
because then if you're in their house league system, it's fine, it's good, I highly recommend it, but then that club is trying to, you are reinforcing to the kid that there's a hierarchy here, and this is, you want to get here, and there's like the kid's self-esteem can be impacted.
We're just taking
by
money from you and investing it in these kids and not in
that
kind of happens,
or it is it's a cash grab. Let's take the house league money and use it on our club team. That's true. I'd rather just raise the rates a little bit for if you want to, or like just build it into your cost where you pay the coach a bit. Because we know a lot of clubs don't pay super high, and it depends on the region, but a lot of clubs don't pay a lot of money for gym rentals. It's a big fee, but it's very low cost if you're not for profit. But so I think framing it for kids is good, letting them get some perspective on it, and then having them earn it too. Right? Understand that maybe this is a good thing. Talk to
them about the kids who are getting all these early signings and the harsh reality that they're in for at some point. What we do for that lesson.
So that's a small.
That's right down. Don't compare yourself to others.
There's lots you can teach. I mean, we keep saying this as a society. We all say we learn the most through failure, right? Like we all know this. We all know that we learn best through failure. But do you want your kid to fail? Absolutely not. Well, then you're kind of saying you don't want your kid to learn anything.
I have two kids right now at the camp that are really having a tough time with that. And I'm like...
With failure?
Yeah. And I'm just like, I've done the whole process over results talk, and like they're just so frustrated. I'm like, don't worry about like not getting the ball over the net or like hitting it out or whatever. Like, just don't worry about it. But it's... And I'm taking my time. I'm trying to explain it from different ways and make it fun. Right? But it's two of them are just having a really tough time with that concept.
And I love the line. A lot of people use this in volleyball, how it's a sport of mistakes. Like I always tell kids, like the best athletes in the world, like makes a ton of mistakes every match. And the not caring about the mistakes is the only way to get to fewer mistakes. Isn't that funny? Like the more mistakes you make, the more numb you become to mistakes. And then in some ways that frees you into playing. That's the other thing I tell kids, like if they've been cut or something, then just go play, learn to play with no fear somewhere else, and then come back with no fear. Because the kids at tryouts who play afraid often get cut. They're the ones who get cut. It's the kids in tryouts who go 100% no fear. They make it. So and the only way to get there is to not care about those mistakes. Like how many times, like it's so funny, right? Like high level players, like stuff, nothing bigger, like stuff block in the gym, and how many times the player that got stuff blocked 9 times out of 10 is like get a smile or high five the blocker. It's like nice block. versus the kid. Like I've seen players that just like, whoa, you know, and they're so
Yeah.
upset, and then serve that player right after and watch
Yeah.
them shank 3 more. Versus the guy,
Exactly.
the guy or girl who laughs it off and high fives the blocker.
Yeah.
They'll smoke the next one, right? This is just a different shift in
Yeah.
how you embrace failure.
They're relaxed.
Yeah, embracing failure, right? Like it's such a cliche to say it, but nobody wants their kids to fail. And I told you, like, you know, when my kids, like, I just sat back, loved watching my kids get their butts kicked on the
Embracing
beach.
it, but what's that?
I loved watching my kids lose.
Yeah.
I loved it. I rooted for it. Honestly, I really did. I was like, good, because now we can talk about, you know, what they're not doing, or they can notice what they're not doing.
Yeah.
They're learning every time they get their butts kicked. And I saw it, like, in the club teams I worked in. Remember we talked about this, the club nearby where the club that got their butts kicked by the other bigger club, that small club that got their butts kicked, they produced the national team players. They produced and forget about even sport. In life, they probably had better mindsets coming out of the sport. Well, they did. The kids that were in the big club were like cocky little, you know, they had the image of the cocky, arrogant, spoiled, rotten kids versus these hardworking farmer kids.
See, we know that there's coaches and parents out there that have seen these kids and they remember, and they're like, oh man.
Or they're seeing them right now.
Yeah.
They're seeing the hardworking team that loses a lot of games.
But we don't ever hear about this. This is another universal law, right? And
It is.
Seeing it happen. So
yeah, I think the universal law behind here is the struggle.
yeah.
Struggle leads to better character, right?
We got to start branding something like coffee mugs or hats, and we'll put them on there.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah,
because we want to be.
And then we'll sell merch and find it right here.
Yeah, and everybody will be wearing them.
We'll
We'll be
just be
famous.
merch.
We'll be famous.
We'll be famous, yeah.
Ah,
And then I can stop comparing myself to others. That's
FOMO.
That's how we're gonna cure my envy.
That's how we're gonna cure. No, I think we're gonna cure your envy by. I think you're already cured. You're in the process. You're in the process of it right now. Process.
Not doesn't involve ayahuasca.
I don't know if we want to talk about that right now, Eric.
Sorry.
That's okay. But the great mommy, what's anyway?
Yeah.
Because that's the way our listeners are. That's the way
They're 4 years old or they are 50 years old.
48
or 40.
baby, 48 baby. No, just kidding. Yeah. So if you're doing ayahuasca, stop it. Yeah, I think we're done, right? I think that's an hour and a half.
Oh.
People stopped listening a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you just.
Hey, tell you what, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
People listening, not you, Eric.
Oh.
Eric thought we were role playing again.
Oh,
No, can you do me a favor, listener, viewer? If you're still watching,
if you're still watching,
just leave a little mark in the comments, just like I'm still or something. Just let us know you're here, because I don't think anybody watches
this far
or listens very,
especially with that tangent about 1/3 of the way in.
Yeah,
Down Beach Avenue.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Or maybe people like that. I don't know. Maybe.
And if you leave a comment, you may as well hit subscribe if you haven't.
Yeah, well, that's something, if you can subscribe. So head over, even if you're on Apple, we're pretty high up in the rankings, right? On iTunes, a lot of people listen to this. So maybe head over to YouTube and just hit the subscribe button and then leave a comment just so we know that, because we focus on YouTube because that helps us a lot, but it helps us feel good about ourselves. It'll eventually get us to making some money. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Because we're doing this for free. Maybe we'll get some sponsors, right?
That'd be cool.
Mr. Porsche.
Oh, yeah. And then what was the other one? Pizzas or something?
Yeah, pizzas and Porsches.
Pizzas and Porsches? Or no, I forget.
I don't know, something. But but no, so just let us know that people are listening to the end. Otherwise, we'll cut these off much. We'll cut them off. We'll just start.
Will we? I don't think we will.
We'll just cut it off randomly in the middle of an episode. Like, no, screw it.
Yeah.
Oh crap! I forgot to hit record. Just kidding. Okay.
You almost got me again.
So I know Eric every time falls for it. So 51 this week. Next week will be our year-long episode. Hopefully, pretty soon. We're hoping to have a special guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe 2.
Maybe 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Volleyballology.
What's the big idea?